Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical, where we talk about the mental, emotional, social, and at times spiritual benefits of exercise. We believe that exercise is more than movement, and this podcast is our attempt at sharing that message with the world by sharing our own as well as our guests' experiences and knowledge. If you enjoy it, we ask that you please spread the message by leaving a rating and review, or even better, by sharing with a friend. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical. Sitting here with Matt Corniche, and we're going to touch on something that was posted as a LinkedIn article. We're going to go at it from a bit of a high level, but what's interesting about it is that it talks to a previous episode we recorded around inactivity. Because basically the takeaway, it's from Fit Insider. It's a really cool kind of health industry analytics page, an insights page. They have published a bunch of insights about the growth of the fitness industry and the health industry and the wellness industry over the period of 2020 to 2022, which has shown a growth. In that period, there was growth of 14.3%, which is significant growth for the industry. In their words, they say the physical activity market is booming. So there's a lot of opportunity in there for businesses. A lot of investors are capitalizing on that opportunity. And it's interesting because it's obviously it's an industry that we are in. And it's a topic we spoke about from the other side, from the side of the consumer beforehand, and from the individual's perspective. And why we thought it would be interesting to discuss with you guys, the listeners, is because the growth of the industry doesn't seem to be coinciding with people moving more. We obviously spoke about the inactivity epidemic, where we've got 31% of the world not meeting minimum movement requirements, which is 150 minutes of moderate intensity movement, which is like walking to your car, carrying the shopping bags, or walking up a hill, or just literally like cycling to work or something.
Like steady state.
It's steady state, and that is 150 minutes of moderate activity or moderate intensity exercise per week. A third, pretty much, of the population is not doing that, and the trends there show that is increasing, that percentage. It's getting larger. More people, a greater proportion of the population in the world are becoming what we would classify as inactive or sedentary, living sedentary lifestyles. However, businesses in the space are growing. And in some ways it makes sense, because as people become more inactive and the issues around inactivity become more prevalent, businesses realize the need for a problem to be solved. And that's often how the world works, is that if there's a problem and you provide a solution, there is some sort of monetary incentive, and that would make sense for why the industry is growing. However, where the problem lies is it doesn't seem like the issue is actually being solved, because the industry is growing, but people are not moving more, they're moving less. So that's kind of the state of things, and it's an interesting one.
It's very interesting. And it makes me think, like, just as you're talking about it now, like, there's a lot of opportunity for businesses to help individuals. Like, for example, at our space here, we are looking to help individuals kind of move better, get to know how to move, and kind of get confident with exercise through our space. And you could say that we put a lot of effort into like making sure that not only do people come here and they move, but we make sure to like constantly keep them in the loop. If they don't come for a session, we check with them and ask them how's everything going. And I think that kind of retention, or that kind of methods of like always check up on someone, or making sure that you are seeing them kind of like throughout their journey, makes them feel valued. And I feel like that's where a big gap in the market is. Like, it comes also to like my personal experience with clients, but some clients would be like, oh my word, like, you're such a good trainer, you do this and this and this. And I'm thinking to myself, like, in the past experience with past trainers, have they not like continuously followed up with you on how you're doing? You know what I mean? Basic things that we can do in this industry to make someone want to stay in that space longer is what we should be practicing. But I don't think that everyone will practice it the same way. And I think that could be one of the indicators of, or one of the aspects that are kind of showing us that even though the industry is growing, even though we're getting more people in, what kind of soft skills are we missing out on or not utilizing enough to make sure that the people actually following you through and getting the most out of that product to make the statistic move. You know what I mean?
Because it could be like, what you raised a really cool point when we were chatting about this earlier, which was that the industry is growing in the sense that there are all these amazing options for people to spend money on in terms of health and fitness.
Yeah.
However, a lot of the time people take that step. They buy a pair of running shoes and that is them feeling like they've invested in their health,
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
they leave it at that.
Yeah.
Or somebody buys some sort of program and then they leave it at that. And you kind of get this like endorphin rush
Yeah.
where you spend money on the thing and it's like, okay, cool.
And you can justify it, like,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of like basic psychology. It's like I'm investing in my health, and there's kind of a gap between, and we see it in our immediate space as well, where you have no shows in terms of PT. You have people who pay for memberships but they don't come, and that could be accounting for what we're seeing, which is a growth in the industry. So people are aware of, logically they're like, I need to spend more on my health, or on my activity levels. Let me buy a pair of running shoes. Let me buy a running program. Let me pay a PT. Let me get a gym membership. However, there's then the kind of issue of actually following through yourself, the daily time investment on that monetary investment.
Yeah.
Because activity level, if we pick it apart like that, activity level is a daily thing. That's something that we do daily consistently. However, an industry growing has to do with people spending money, which you don't have to do every day
Yeah.
on your fitness. You can do it sporadically to give yourself that kick of like, okay, I'm paying attention to my health.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a kind of indicator or kind of an explanation for that gap. Obviously, we're speculating a bit, but for me, that's what kind of makes sense. And I think you raised a really valuable point in that. Around, because I see it a lot as well. I mean, a big thing for us as trainers and as coaches is compliance.
Yeah.
People are paying you, and you say, look, this is the
Exactly.
cancellation policy, and time and again, and this is not pointing fingers. This is just a fact.
It happens.
Time and
in
again.
in every aspect of life, it will happen. You'll face it.
100%. So I think that's quite an interesting one as well. And how do we, I mean, like you said, there's a measure that you can take as a coach to then go and follow up with your clients to try and make sure that they're remaining consistent. But, where else can we actually support people on actually getting more active other than giving them just like a monetary outlet?
Yeah, I think like back to the point of the statistical trend and the analysis, I think it's such a good kind of thing to be talking about because there's so much that we can give to it. And I think the one thing that we as trainers have to look at now, if we kind of looking at ourselves and looking at our role in this, I think we play a big role of importance in like making sure that our clients or that people that are around us are interacting with the right objects or the right kind of products, like whether it's the right pair of running shoes, the right pair of the right supplements, the right food choices, the right exercise choices, the right ways to recover and rest, because anyone can buy a product and have that kind of rush and have that thought that they're doing the right thing, but how do you use it? And that's where we step in and we kind of like navigate that and nurture them to using it properly. And that's why a lot of these businesses and a lot of these companies and the industry itself is growing, but it's only growing because there's a percentage of good trainers that are taking the product, that are backing the product and have tested it, and that are taking their clients to the product and then helping that client continue their journey with that product. And in return, the cycle continues, and the issue of the percentage of people not fully going through is where that step is missed, like where the trainer is not kind of like competent enough to complete that engagement with the client and help them to kind of take that product or take the right products with them, the right tools, so that when they get to this journey, when they get to a certain part of the journey, they can complete it and continue sustainably.
Yes. And what actually might be another kind of slant on it, and we'd obviously have to go deeper into the literature to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine that a lot of the growth of the industry can be attributed to an existing market of people being better understood by players in the industry, so companies,
Yes.
who are identifying a bunch of different needs and value adds that they can offer to an existing population of people who already move.
Exactly.
And basically what that is doing is augmenting the existing experience and making their movement a more kind of end-to-end,
Give me so many ideas
a
now.
whole end-to-end experience where they are being served at each part of the market. Because if I have to just think about myself, for instance, when I started movement, all I did was push-ups. I can remember the first time I ever exercised like intentionally was my mom had bought a pair of these kind of these bands that you attach to
Yeah.
the back of the door,
Yes.
and they had handles on them, like one of those like Verimark things.
Yeah.
And I attached them to the back one, but they were in the package for months. I was like, oh, that thing looks cool. And I was probably about, I think I was 6 or 7. And I attached it to the back of the door, and I looked at the sheet of exercises, and I started trying them out. And I did the curling and the whatever, and I was doing push-ups and I was whatever. And that was how my exercise started. And obviously that planted a seed for outside of sport. That planted a seed for going and making time to exercise by myself. The next step somewhere down the line was, you know, buying, paying for a gym membership. So now I'm still the same active person, but I've found a different kind of value
Yes.
to add to my kind of movement and activity experience. It didn't necessarily make me more active, because now instead of curling behind the door, I'm curling in the gym.
Yes.
Then I'm still going to the gym, but I realize, what are these things called lifting straps? And what are these things supplements? What is a weight belt?
Yeah.
These are all different products that are not making me necessarily more active, but they're providing more value
For the
to
journey.
For the journey.
Yeah.
So the industry, I'm giving more money to the industry, but I'm not becoming any more active.
Exactly.
And that's not really directly bringing more people into the industry, but it's increasing the value of the industry, because people who already move and already like movement are getting more value adds.
Exactly.
And we can
Yeah.
take it a step further and look at people who are, as they're progressing through this kind of experience, adding more elements to their to their activity. You have started running. I've started running as well. We now buy running shoes. We now buy a Garmin. I buy a chest strap. I buy glasses.
Yeah.
I buy race entries. It's a never-ending list
Yeah, and
of
it
like
continues.
the value of me as a consumer is just growing and growing and growing and growing. And I think that if we had to look at, narrow it down to one consumer in 2020, look at their average annual spend on fitness, and then take it 2 years forward,
Yeah.
you could probably attribute that, you could see that 14.3% increase in no extra activity in the population, but just more value for the existing consumers.
Yeah.
And I think my kind of hypothesis would be that's maybe where that is.
No, definitely. I think so. And it, like, as I was saying now while you're talking, I was just like, it's giving me so many business ideas because, like, and it's actually making my head hurt a bit because it's like, it's just going. And it just makes me think, like, every single thing that, like, you see someone do, like, in our industry, buying running shoes or talking about buying these things, that's an opportunity for us as trainers. I mean, we were talking about leads literally, like, not too long ago. Like, how do you generate that? And if you look at this trend, it's right there in the open. Look for someone buying something, go to them and tell them, do you know how to utilize this product to help you for the next 6 months or 12 months? No? Here's my services. So that you don't buy this thing and then it sits there and you don't know how to use it and you feel disappointed after like a month or two, And you can't deny that happens. Like, that happens to me as well, because consumerism is everywhere.
For sure.
Like, we feel like we need something, we buy something, you get disappointed because you actually realize you didn't need it in the first place. But if you can reach out to someone who knows how to use that and can give you like a step-by-step basis on making that valuable, then all of a sudden you'll be so over the moon, because now the thing that you thought you wasted your money on, you actually didn't. And now it gives you value in other aspects of your life, Like, for example, buying running shoes and getting a running coach or getting someone to kind of help you on that journey. If you get really good at it through that, the investment that you made initially will be nothing compared to the reward that you'll get out of it.
For sure.
The health, the kind of friends that you make, the socializing, the impact that it has on your relationships, how happy you'll be, the positivity that you'll get out of it. And then from there you become a role model for the next person, and the cycle continues.
And that's what we'd hope. We'd
Yeah.
hope that it creates role models who inspire movement in more people. And I think if we break it down to what we often speak about, which is systems and environments and habits and things like that, and bring it back to kind of the business perspective
Yeah.
that we've been taking on this chat is, in kind of business literature, it's fairly well known or believed that there's a cost associated with acquiring new customers, and the cost associated with that typically is higher than the cost to upsell or cross-sell
Exactly.
existing customers, and that is a little bit of a systemic problem or systematic problem, because what that does is it prioritizes the needs of the existing market of people who
Yeah.
are already active,
Exactly, as
over
opposed to
how do
people
we
coming
bring
into the
more
market.
people into it.
Yeah.
And that aligns so well
Yeah.
as well with what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
Because and maybe it's not the smartest from a business standpoint, but our whole vision is to get people who otherwise wouldn't have come to gym because they were intimidated, because they lacked the knowledge, because they had a different kind of a negative perception of gym and strength training, to come and train. That's
Yeah.
been the idea from the start, and it's like, that's a challenging thing to do, because what's typically, from a business standpoint, I suppose, a more effective thing to do is to look at where there are existing consumers and trying to offer them value in a different way.
Yes.
And that's, I think maybe that's a lower hanging fruit, but there's more impact in the harder
when
thing,
you're getting someone on
bringing
board,
new
like
people
a
in.
new person that, and I love that. I love getting a client that is not as confident within their movement, has not had like a long period of time in the gym, whether they had, and even if they did, they didn't kind of like fully go into it. It gives me so much like space to now introduce everything that I know and share my passion on to the next person, and I think that's also where it comes from. Like, it's also about like, and I made this point earlier, it's also about what we're doing in the society and in this industry, and how we can impact the next person. And I think, like you said, it's low hanging fruit going for an existing customer or existing member. But as soon as you can get a system that can bring on people and make that onboarding process of coming into a gym easier,
As easy as possible.
like, not only are you getting customers, and this is past selling and marketing now, but you're actually fixing like a problem that has been around for years and years and years, and actually will still be here even if you start acting on it, because the percentage of people that won't go into that space because they're so intimidated and they feel like they're just going to sign up and not get help, it's higher than anything right now. It's higher than the amount of members that don't feel intimidated about going to a gym membership, And yeah, just another idea in my head about how we can approach.
And it's obviously we want to have a kind of blended approach. We want to cover our bases in terms of serving, obviously, the people we have existing within the space, and we want to continue to make their experience better. But we've also got to continue iterating and working towards, how do we lower the barrier to entry for people who, they want to live better, they want to feel better, they want to enjoy their paddle more, they want to enjoy, they want to get on the ground and play with their grandkids and things like that. But it's just, there's this barrier that's kind of inhibiting them from stepping into the gym and getting strong.
And to add on to that, like, I was listening to Alex Hormozi's podcast on my way here, and the one podcast just says, like, don't sell your product, sell the proof. So, like, if you know someone wants to be able to do that, like, give them the ability to do it, and they'll come back to you. And it seems like it's such a straightforward thing, because nowadays, like, everything costs something, so it's also a very selfless act that you're going to take now if you're going to reach out to someone and you'll be like, I can help you do this. But you also might hit like a very, very good client, or you might get another aspect of business that you never got before, because now you reach out to someone, you're like, what is the problem? They tell you the problem, you sort it out, and they're like, I'm always going to come back to you, and I'll always refer people to you because you've done this thing for me. And that's value, and that will also like help. The more people that we can do that to in a sustainable manner, which will still be worked out for us, as every year changes, the the better I think that statistic will become. Like more people will actually stay within the process, and you'll see that the 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 constant analysis of the industry growing as well as the consumers engaging with it grow kind of fairly close together. But at some in some cases, I also do think that some companies are not like are not eager to push that narrative.
No.
Like they just want to sell their product and kind of do it for a trend basis as opposed to actual benefit.
Mm.
You know, because like some companies are very like keen on like getting like when they're doing advertising, getting trainers aligned, like actual qualified people to back their stuff, and then some companies are not, and they'll just get anyone, someone that has influence, and then it doesn't make any sense because then you're having someone that doesn't align with the product, but you're trying to sell it to people that it just creates a bit of confusion. So then it creates a system where someone can just buy something, and they think I've done the right thing. Whereas if you had an actual qualified person representing the product, they would explain to the person before they buy it, this is the steps that you need to take before you buy it, during and after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But do people have the time to listen to that in advertising and marketing? No. You need something quick, fast. That's gonna be like just quick for the engagement, just quick for the consumer to engage with and be like, I need that. Not why do I need it, or is there a good reason for this? We just like, I feel like a lot of places or a few places go for quick buys, and then it's just like done.
And I mean, from a business perspective and from a sales point of view, it's understandable why companies do that. And it brings us also to a really interesting topic, which is what is the role of the corporation in helping people become more active, or helping more people become active, and increasing society's activity levels. And there, it's, I don't know, I don't know what the kind of responsibility is there, because I also can understand the kind of motivation to work with your existing customers.
Yeah.
But it's, if we go and look at, there's an amazing company that I've been following for a number of years, local company. They do have an international customer base though. They're called Strove, and they're a corporate wellness company. And what they do that is really amazing and really interesting is they help foster an environment within companies where activity and health and wellness and mindfulness around people's health is celebrated, and it's rewarded, and they do it with very clever psychological kind of incentives. They also do it by appealing to people's like moral compasses. They have these kind of tokens that help you plant trees with your activity levels.
That's cool.
And they kind of tug on a whole bunch of different elements of gamification, which I think for me that's the way to solve and foster a more active kind of, a more active society. Because if we kind of reflect on the episode we released about the inactivity epidemic, my argument and kind of my stance was it has to do with environments. It has to do with, how do we foster a world that is more geared towards moving and less geared towards convenience, because that is kind of where the main challenge lies. And I think a big kind of lever, or a very effective lever, is to look at company culture around exercise. How do we change the narrative in these kind of micro environments where people spend a lot of time, like the office, like their homes, where we can kind of get that to be a space where people are more aware and kind of bullish on movement. And then you like I said, like tools and platforms and companies like Strove, they help with that. But how do we kind of incentivize more companies to move in that direction? That's, I think, a kind of another challenging question, which for me is quite interesting.
There's a lot of points that will just keep coming because like there's so many opportunities, and it shows you that there's so much space for growth and there's so much space for improvement. Like I feel like things have been the same for too long, and that's why it comes to a point now where if you make a small change within a company's kind of like stance on health and wellness, it makes such a big impact. And you could argue that you're very good at your job as a trainer or as a company or as a health and wellness kind of initiative going in there. But you could also argue that because it's been so malnourished in terms of like not having that, that's why it's doing so well, you know. And I think we need to see more like engagement in health and wellness, because in a business, in a corporate and a business perspective, like healthier employees will produce healthier results,
Absolutely.
you know. And then at the same time, like touching on the aspect of focusing on existing customer base as opposed to like onboarding new customers. A lot of businesses, I personally think, like at some point, like you have to focus on the new ones, because if you keep on focusing on the existing ones, because it's obviously less, it's more cost effective, and you don't have to go through the extra effort. In 5, 10, 15 years, is there going to be a new customer base if they haven't been approached and shown the right way to do things and to live properly? No.
Yes.
So that's why it's so important to have a system of 1-1-1-1, you know. Um, and you know, it's the same thing. Like you don't quite know why it hasn't been done yet, but you only know that it needs to be done. And like there can be so many policies and regulations where it comes to like the way things are done, but when you look at basic principles, it doesn't make sense. And
Yes.
like
Yeah, it's. I think I'm kind of also just shifting back onto the question of like, what is the role of the corporation in fostering a more active world? I think what it is there's a responsibility, there's a moral imperative on companies to leverage their agility, which companies have more of, generally speaking, than nations and governments.
yeah,
Because obviously there are these kind of policy-related interventions that we spoke about in that other episode, which would be amazing. You know, getting transport networks to a position where it helps people move more. But that is a process that takes a lot more time.
a lot of time.
And often with these things, there's a lot of, you know, budget-related approvals that need to happen. And yes, that is in corporate, but I feel, and one would intuit, that less so than in government organizations. So I would say the role of companies is to kind of take more seriously the moral imperative they have to help people be healthier.
Yeah.
And then to pay attention to
Exactly.
exactly what you were saying, which is how that affects their bottom line. Because at the end of the day, it does. You know, we've seen within the team, and we've each felt as individuals, the strain that people being unwell has on a team. You know, it creates more work, especially
Yeah.
for smaller teams, for others. And that's a thing that, you know, we can help solve by encouraging more movement.
And better like ways to kind of like assist with moving, because we all do move, yeah. Then you just look at different like aspects, like one of our like the reason why I got sick was I got burnt out, so I'm moving too much. So then one of you guys can share with me, okay, maybe you need to try out this rest and recovery protocol, try out this change to your diet, since you're moving a lot more, you need to get more in, you know. So that's also the aspect of environment and community, like having a good community, which isn't normally, like you go to a lot of places or a lot of spaces and that's not really encouraged, because like it gets so competitive to the point that you don't want to help out the next person, but you don't understand that helping out the next person indirectly helps you out further down the line. You know what I mean? So yeah,
So we've got to work together.
you definitely have to work together, and
It's a collaborative
and it's like
effort.
you look at this trend and you look at the analysis, and you actually have to work all the way back to how we treat each other as people, and like how we view success and how we view like working towards objectives. Like there's no reason for us to compete to the point where I'm trying to like completely take you out of this game, of the fitness industry game, so that I can be on top and get that client. Whereas we could just work together, make it easier for both of us, not have that stress of tension and competitiveness, and use our skill set to target a bigger audience where I like you could get 10 clients and I could get 10 clients. That makes more sense. But common sense is not shared amongst everyone. So competitiveness will always be such a primal and like a normal thing to go for, but it's not always the answer.
And we must
For me,
know,
yeah.
we must also know that things are not always a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
And if I can just reference a conversation we had at the beginning of the week around, you know, integrating new trainers into the space, my thinking of that is if there's another trainer in the space who's winning, we're all going to win more because there are more people coming in, there are more people talking about Horizon, there are more people saying, you know,
and it's
I
new
had this
people
great
coming
experience
with.
here, and there are new people coming with, and we all feed off of that together. It's not a because you have 3 more clients this month, I've got 3 less. It's not like that. It's we all grow by growing together. We have this kind of misconception a lot of the time that these are zero-sum games, as in order for me to win, you need to lose, which I don't really buy that. I think if we work together, we'll grow together.
No, true. It's funny because like I think about when I was in college and before I started working like full time as a PT, like in class every single time we had business, they would ask me, and they would always come back to me because they'd be like, "Have you made your list of competitors for your business?" And I was like, because I'm operating alone, the only competition I have is myself. And everyone would be like, "Oh my word, listen to this guy." But like, it's true. Like, if you're operating alone and you operate on a mobile basis, which I was at the time, I unfortunately I cannot. It would take me too much to keep track of every other personal trainer driving around in that area, watching them to see what equipment they have. It would be way easier for me to just continuously do service with my clients, see if they enjoy the mobile training. Is it comfortable for them? Are they actually enjoying training outside, or should I get a space? You know, like what can I improve in my control? And I think that taught me a lot of accountability. And as soon as I looked inwards from that point, like competition was never a problem for me in terms of like going, like now working in a gym space at Horizon, where I couldn't care that much if another trainer got a client, because I know that that's soon gonna come for me as well. It's just about patience, and like it's about what are you not doing, what can you do more, and also understanding that it's part of a bigger picture. Like if we as a team can get clients regardless of who it is and help them to move better, we're helping everyone in society, and that should be the goal, because there's a lot of people that do need help in movement, you know.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, by highlighting issues around how corporates and bigger companies or companies in general can play a part in the kind of fight against inactivity and the epidemic around that, we are, you know, opening conversation, and hopefully, you know, if one business owner or one decision maker hears this and they are inspired to go and raise the conversation, to go and bring Strove into their company, or to just organize some sort of, you know, movement kind of initiative, or contact us, you know, hit us up. We're happy to help you with some corporate wellness. Come do a team day here. You know, we've done what we want to do. It's all about conversations, because that's where it starts.
Exactly.
And that's how we move that lever and how we move that needle. Because to kind of bring us full circle, you're looking at 111% growth from 2019 in the kind of the physical activity market. But we're also seeing from that time until now that global inactivity levels are on the up. And that those two numbers, you know,
doesn't make sense.
They shouldn't be moving in the same direction. They should be moving in opposite directions.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's an important problem.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic one, and it's an exciting one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely, you know, there's so many available solutions. It's just about, you know, where do you want to spend your time in terms of.
And to add on to that as well, I feel like I don't know if you've experienced it, but in my journey with fitness, or just like in advancing through personal life and personal aspects, like the thing that always remains after everything, like even like if I take away all the materialistic things that I have and all the products that I've invested in, like the most valuable thing is myself, you know, and like the people around me. Like if you take care of the internal matters within yourself, like whether it's like your mind or the thought process or the way that you can generate ideas or the way that you execute ideas, that gives you life. And like when you look at external things, you're going to be caught up in an endless cycle. And I can admit that I have, you know, like
it's human.
You go and you think like, oh, I need to get this, and then that can help me do this. But then you try just like a month or 2 months without something, you know, and you see how much more resourceful you are and can be, and how much creativity that you have, and how if if you're just more patient, then you can get more done, as opposed to just like getting something because it makes your life easier in this way and that way and that way. Like, as time goes, a lot of individuals are taking away from their own capabilities, and we're depending on like external sources to bring that and make it easier for us to live life. Whereas we should be competent in a lot of aspects to live our lives and lead our lives and to take care of our families, and everything else should be add-ons.
Yes.
And I'm very passionate about that idea, you know.
And it's a more sustainable solution to look inwards.
Exactly.
As opposed to looking outwards.
It costs nothing.
It costs nothing. It costs you a bit of time maybe to learn about it or to do it every day.
Which is free as well.
But, you know, it's something that you can do yourself. You just
but it's definitely not an easy thing.
No.
I
simple,
can't say that it's
but
easy.
it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah, but it's definitely not easy. It takes a lot of like self-awareness, and it also takes a lot of like being honest with yourself and accountability, and accepting what people are telling you around you, and then also not accepting what people are telling you around you.
And challenging those things.
So like if you're in the wrong environment and people constantly tell you don't do this, don't do that, but you know it makes you feel good when you do it, then change your environment. As hard as it sounds, you know, it doesn't have to also be like a once-off thing or like a complete cut-off. It can be sustainable as well, where you just don't tell people that you are going for a run. Because I know of a lot of people that have started activity and they've lost like friendship groups because that wasn't a cool thing to do. It wasn't their thing. So, and from the one engagement that I had with someone, they basically said that they just started to do it without telling anyone. And it saved them so much time. They didn't have to hear people saying, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And they just felt better, and life just got better for them. Everything that they were facing just wasn't a problem anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's also, if anyone needed to hear that, then you're welcome.
You don't need anyone's approval. Take the first step.
Yeah.
Get moving. Thank you for listening. Really cool chat. I enjoyed it a lot. I hope you all did too. If you did, remember to share it with a friend. And we will catch you all in the next episode.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to the show, guys. We love answering specific questions. So if there's anything you want to know, leave a comment or reach out to us directly at Horizon ZA on Instagram, or email us at movement@horizongym.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Seb Prentice, and this is Beyond Physical.